Welcome to the Who's Left podcast, a show about Indiana politics, history, and culture from an unapologetically leftist perspective. My name is Scott Aaron Rogers, and I'm recording from Bloomington. In this space, I run my mouth criticizing power, wealth, and corruption. I've made some enemies, but I'm grateful that, at least to this point, I haven't had to deal with any real threats to my safety. Maybe that means I'm not trying hard enough. My guest today cannot say the same. William Kory Amyx is a Democratic candidate for U.S. Congress in Indiana's 6th District. A lifelong Hoosier with deep working class roots, Kory has built his campaign on accountability, integrity, and protecting everyday people from both corporate abuse and government overreach. His platform spans economic revitalization, small business fairness, veterans health care, and digital safety. Kory is also a whistleblower who exposed propaganda for hire networks and has turned that fight into concrete legislation aimed at protecting Americans online and offline. In the following conversation, we'll talk about his motivation to run for Congress, why digital safety and transparency is his signature issue, and why it's important to each and every one of us. Finally, we'll look at a couple pieces of legislation he has proposed to protect individual free speech while cracking down on the big tech oligarchs, hostile foreign actors, and extremist networks that foment violence in online spaces. Real quick, before we get to the interview, please consider supporting Who's Left with a paid subscription. This is an independent media project. I don't paywall content, I don't sell out to advertisers, and I don't have a billionaire benefactor. Only individuals like you keep this thing going. I refuse to gatekeep valuable information in the middle of a political crisis, even to my financial detriment. So please, if you find value in this work, go to whosleft.us and subscribe at the paid level. It's only $5 a month or $50 a year to help me write more, research more, and organize more. Not ready for a long-term commitment? You can make a one-time contribution on Cash App or Venmo. Links are in the show notes. Look, I'm pushing 50. My sore old body could better serve this state constructing a better future than in actual construction, but I need your financial support to do so. And if that doesn't work for your budget at this time, you can still help out by liking and sharing on social media, commenting, leaving reviews, providing feedback, and forwarding articles to your people. We are building a community of Hoosiers here dedicated to making this state and its government work for all of us, not just the elite few. Please join us. Follow on Blue Sky, Instagram, and Threads at whosleft.us, and on Facebook, X, TikTok, Mastodon, and YouTube at Who's Left. Tell the others. Let's build a radically democratic Indiana together. Thanks again. Now, here is my conversation with Kory Amyx. Hey, Kory Amyx, welcome to the Who's Left podcast.
Hello, how are you today?
Well, listen, any given day in America is that's a loaded question, and I refuse to answer it. But so we were talking a little bit before we went, started recording here, just kind of deciding how we want to handle this thing, and it's funny because a couple weeks ago, on Who's Left This Week, our Sunday morning show over on Project Next, on the panel, we were talking about free speech, vis-a-vis the Charlie Kirk assassination, and sort of what you're allowed to say, who you're allowed to say it in front of, the right wing culture warriors have been free speech absolutists until they actually gained power, and now it's like, well, no, you can't criticize us now, and again, the Kirk assassination really brought out that strain of censorship. We saw the whole Jimmy Kimmel incident, and I thought about it, and listen, we were all of us on the panel were very, listen, this is America, man. We value free speech. I think that is the one thing we all sort of still agree on. I mean, I find myself agreeing with Ted Cruz and Tucker Carlson.
Bingo card.
Right. And Matt Walsh. Matt Walsh, one of the most reprehensible public figures in America. I found myself agreeing with him that week. And but you do have to think about these things in a way, because part of the reason we are where we are with political violence, with polarization, with extremism is weaponized anonymous speech on the internet. And I broached the topic, and I hated to do it because, again, I've always been a free speech guy. But I brought up, thinking of COVID, thinking about the way China handled things, thinking about the way the rest of the world handled things, in terms of like the spread of misinformation and disinformation, and like, the obligation of a government to protect the public health, and you don't want like false information spreading out throughout the population. And it opens up this can of worms. Like, okay, like what is the appropriate amount of censorship? There is a line, right?
I agree.
And I'm really excited to talk to you because one of the primary platforms of your congressional campaign is like cybersecurity, privacy, honesty in who you're dealing with online. And that's like, one, kind of unusual. Two, like really specific, kind of not a niche issue. It's a very important issue, but like I don't think enough people are talking about it. And very pertinent right now. So
extremely.
Listen, that's a very long way of me wasting 4 minutes of the people's time to say, welcome, Kory. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and then let's like rip the top of this can of worms.
Sure, we'll jump right in. So my name is William Kory Amyx. I am running for Congress in the 6th district. The first thing that everybody always asks me, what do we call you? Telemarketers call me William or Bill. My friends call me Kory, and we just aren't going to talk about what my enemies call me, because you can look that up on Twitter and see it enough. It's not nice things.
Yeah. I mean, we can open that can of worms too. You made some enemies.
Some frenemies. Yeah. That's a topic we'll get to it maybe. But no, I go by Kory. My friends and my family call me Kory. I'm dad. I live in McCordsville with my partner, and I have 2 kids. They're both in college. They're amazing, great kids. One's almost 22 and the other is 18. I work in higher education. I've worked in higher education between admissions and financial aid now for more than 20 years. So I'm not a politician. I have some family, or former family, I should say. My former grandfather-in-law is Doc Bowen, Otis Bowen, who was the former governor twice of Indiana and head of health and human services for President Reagan. He was also a Republican. But politics is not it's not my cup of tea. I always tell people, don't call me a politician, just call me your neighbor. Because I would rather be your neighbor than be what America sees as a politician today. I'm striving to be something different. And that's something I think we need, is something different. We've got to go back to the kitchen table talks. We've got to get back to congressmen and congresswomen, both, who sit down with the people and talk to them and remember that they work for the people. So that's what I'm doing. And then I have a little bit of background knowledge in, I wouldn't so much say cybersecurity. I mean, I'm not an expert by any means in that field. There are plenty of smarter people in that field than me. I have some experiences in that field. I was a whistleblower that uncovered a propaganda network that was targeting Supreme Court justice, and we'll just say meme stocks. and some unfortunate events folded where I was stalked and harassed and sent death threat. Kind of a preparation for going through Congress. What I'm running for Congress now with what's happening lately. It's also helped to shape some of the legislation that I drafted that you can find on Amyx for Congress, AMYX for Congress.com. Specifically, the Digital Integrity and Algorithmic Accountability Act, the Real Identity and Integrity Act, and the Digital. I forget the name of this one every single time. Digital Identity Security Council. We use identity and integrity a lot because
that should be the easy one to remember. Like it spells a word. Yeah,
exactly. You got diarrhea and disc, and then there's also the free speech one that's FIGRA, but that's a different topic.
That honestly sounds like a very anxiety-inducing, potentially not fun day at the disc golf course. But
isn't it? I like disc golf too. But yeah, so that's kind of what helped me get to where I'm at now.
Okay, so what was it you said? I'm not a politician, but here we are. We're running for Congress.
Here we are. Yeah.
What goose you in that direction?
To be honest, one of my kids. I was yelling at the TV. It was my daughter, and I was yelling at the TV as one normally does lately when you watch the news, and saying some choice four-letter words, and my daughter looked at me and she's like, "Dad, why don't you do something about it?" And I think my daughter had more of local politics in mind, and I went big or went home. So I chose to run for Congress. So that's kind of how I got involved in this. I had honestly seen Victoria Sparks also, who was in the 5th District. That's also something that comes up because originally I was running for the 5th District because I used to live in Muncie for 27 years. After I grew up in Connorsville, and then I moved to Muncie for college in 1997, and I lived there up until 2020. Right before the world stopped, I moved into my house in McCordsville on Valentine's Day. No, my kids graduated from Yorktown. I didn't have anybody left at Muncie, so I switched to the South District since I live in Hancock County. I was raised in Fayette County. It made more sense. So that's what got me rolling for Congress, and I hit the ground running and stumbled a couple times, but I got back up.
Oh, well, okay. So yeah, why Congress? Why not one of those local races that you maybe think your daughter was kind of nudging you toward? I mean, it sounds like was it the whistleblowing? That seems like a very much it was a national issue, an issue of national security and importance. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw a lot of politics being manipulated, quite honestly. A lot of disinformation, a lot of malinformation and misinformation. And a lot of propaganda targeting our national politics. So I had a strong draw towards that area already because of that. And to see, ultimately, I want to make sure that because of the things that I went through, the death threats back then and even hell now, because of the harassment, the intimidation, but also, look at Supreme Court Justice Kavanaugh is who it was. The things that he went through. I look at the CEO of AMC was threatened and harassed. The same with GameStop and so many other stocks that were all targeted for the same way. They were using manipulation as a service providers. And people ask me, does that are those in the United States or are those over in Pakistan or someplace like that? There were actors in the United States that were part of it. There are people that I'm sure overseas, South America and Europe and different places. But it would be very naive of people to think that's not happening here in the United States. It is 1,000% happening in the United States. Every day, everything you see, even from my Congressional page, I saw, Scott, you shared and you liked a couple of things that I posted as examples today. They were prime examples of how propaganda is so easily inserted into social media today, and you don't even realize it. Even the cybersecurity threats of how people use social engineering to get your passwords. One of the easiest ones that I think it's kind of funny, everybody laughs at, is what's your porn name? And they'll ask, oh, it's the street you grew up on and your dog's first name. Those are security questions. Those are security questions for your password. So they've just hacked your mind. That's called a social engineer. That's what they do. They're hackers, but they hack your brain. They don't hack the computer. So helping people to learn those things, that's what I did as part of being a whistleblower too, was helping to educate the public on those things.
Wow, man! Like there's so much there.
Yeah, it's a lot to unpack.
Yeah, no, well, okay. So you mentioned COVID, and you moved around then, as did a lot of people. But that year kind of really was a turning point for a lot of folks. I think really many folks made big changes, whether it was moving, or really like getting involved in politics, or like reading history and understanding the true history of this country, and the deep racial issues we have here that led up to George Floyd in 2020 and all that, but also the election and everything around that, and all of the conspiracy theories. And just like so many people, we were all home. I wasn't. I still had to go to work in 2020, but
I was home.
Yeah, a lot of folks were at home and had way too much time on their hands and spent way too much time going like down rabbit holes online. And it sounds like, from what you're saying, like a lot of that is not organic, and so many of the folks, like the weaponization of conspiracy theories, the whole stolen election conspiracy around 2020 and going into January 6th, and the way that has persisted since. Obviously, that's very dangerous. You go back to 2016 and the Russian election interference, and Facebook and Cambridge Analytica, and all that, and a lot of conspiracies came out of that year. And I tell people, hey, you like a conspiracy? Like, what if our enemies, foreign and domestic, use the tools that we have, e.g., social media, and exploit the very openness of our society, exploit our free speech, exploit the ability to say anything, and send it around the world in a click, to divide our society from the inside. So now I guess I just opened a can of worms and went down a rabbit hole myself. But I guess I want to, like, the word I wanted to come back to is like conspiracy there, and you uncovered a conspiracy.
I proved.
Yes.
I wouldn't say I uncovered a conspiracy. I turned conspiracy into facts. I found that what most people would think is a conspiracy is in fact true and happening. And that is a difficult thing to do. It took years. It took several years of doing this. It's a whole nother podcast on the tactics that I used and how I did this. That's a whole nother conversation for a different time. And it's not something I recommend people let law enforcement do it. Believe me, let law enforcement do it. It cost me a few $1,000s in attorney fees, and thankfully I won. But when people are confronted with their belief structure is challenged, they have a difficult time accepting truth and facts that negate what they believed. Right? I think we've seen that on the far extremes on both sides, both the far left and the far right. I mean, we can't differentiate and say that it's not happening on both sides of the aisle. I think we all know it's happening more so on one specific side, the cult. But dealing with that was probably one of the harder things in helping people to see, hey, when you look at, for example, when we talk about fake accounts online, so many times people talk about bots. One of the easiest things you'd think to talk about, right? Most people just think a bot is a computer, and they have no clue that there's actually human beings who operate hundreds of different accounts with hundreds of different personalities and profiles. They're called sock puppet accounts. And yeah, it sounds kind of weird, right? Because you're used to, you think of like
I mean, yeah.
But they're operating fake accounts like you would, the little sock puppet guy with the googly eyes. And they're talking to these people. And I know it's so funny when I talk about sock puppets. I've given this speech even to like teenagers at high schools, and they all start giggling. I'm like, laugh. I think it's funny too. That's literally the cybersecurity
metaphor. Yeah, absolutely.
It's 100% called a sock puppet. And then the half breed accounts are called cyborgs, where they're half bot and half sock puppets. They are literally called cyborg accounts. But when you present that information, the facts and the truth, that's undeniable. It's not, it's not an opinion-based thing. I could show you right now spreadsheets that I had of fake accounts that show how, when they were created, it shows every account is issued, we'll call it like a social security number. It's an identification number.
Yeah.
It shows their identification number, the date and time the account was created. There's no way that these accounts that are in microseconds apart, there's no way that those accounts should be tied together in the same topics with the same following and the same followers and talking about all the same things. It's statistically impossible, but it was happening. So showing people those types of things, it was difficult. They didn't want to believe that it was actually happening. And I did this in a stock community at first, showing them, hey, these people, going to the moon 35, you think he's your best friend that you talk to every day, but the person behind that account is also operating another account that's bashing that. It's called a smash and grab. Or even stock manipulation is the better way to explain it. It was really difficult. And they were preying on people's hopes. They were preying on people's fears. And then you saw the Republican side of things. And I'm not going to name accounts because I really don't want to go through lawsuits with that. But there are some big named accounts on the stock sides that were pushing conspiracy theories for Donald Trump. I mean, we're talking very, very, like, everybody watching would know them if I said the name. Very predominant. And they're a part of that in the accounts created within microseconds of each other. And to watch them change handles and change ownership, even to try to fool people, was intriguing. But we're getting in the weeds on that because that's kind of something that's more technical aspect. But does that answer your question better? I'm sorry.
Well, no, we've seen the like pictures of like people in like the Russian, Internet Research Agency, where they've got people whose job is basically, you see they've got a workstation set up with like 100 iPhones plugged in, and you just go from one to the other and you post the same thing, and it makes these extreme opinions seem more prevalent than they actually are.
Mm-hmm.
And it has a way of radicalizing our society and turning people against each other. So listen, obviously there is a foreign espionage, foreign sabotage,
psychological warfare,
geological. Right, yeah, what fifth generation warfare or whatever they call it. Yeah, it's so obviously there's an element of that, of hostile foreign actors wanting to see the country tear itself apart from within because, they obviously can't win like straight on militarily. And that's a whole other podcast itself. But listen, if you get your enemy to like shoot himself, hey, great.
The better way to destroy a country is the best way to destroy a country is from within. Sun Tzu, The Art of War.
Yeah. So but accepting that, let's set that whole thing aside for now. Like, how easy would it be for me to say, like, man, like I'm not getting the kind of fraction online I would want. How easy is it to like get a bot network?
You could go out there right now, Scott, and buy it. You could go out there and buy likes. You can buy views. You can buy followers. You can buy interactions, and there's even some services right now that you can go to, and you'll say from real people. So what they're advertising is they're advertising people operating sock puppet accounts. That's what they're advertising because they're not real people as themselves. They're just real people operating the accounts, not necessarily computers. It's really, really easy to buy that. In fact, before Elon bought Twitter, we'll use this as an example, and this is something everybody that's watching can go out and Google right now. Elon made the announcement, I believe it was April of 2022, give or take a month.
That he intended to, right?
He intended
close to the
to.
fall.
Yeah, and it wasn't until like fall, October, November that he actually took over. But it was in the spring of 2022. Before that, before or right after that announcement that he intended to do it, he threw, excuse my language, he threw a shit fit because the media came out and they did an analysis using Botometer and some other open source tools that are out there. Well, were out there. That can analyze accounts. It's something I actually used to do when I was taking part in the research that turned into being a whistleblower. They found that Elon's accounts, over 60, I think it was 60%, don't quote me. I know it was more than half, was fake accounts.
Yeah.
Elon had millions then, right? And he's only got so much more now. Elon has taken to removing every possible way you can determine if there's any fake accounts on there. The API has been closed to academics and researchers. I mean, I could do a laundry list of what's changed. That's now prevented it. Academics and researchers cannot tell what's real and what's fake. Nobody can. Well, you can, but you have to know. You have to know what to look for.
It's expensive, right? Like you can get access to the Twitter API, but it's like prohibitively expensive. Yeah.
Oh, it's stupid expensive. I mean, like for academics and research, it makes no sense for them to pay this thousands of dollars a month for it. Meta turned off CrowdTangle. That was another way that you could check it for even Facebook. So a lot of those things, I think when President Biden came out with his farewell address, he talked about the social media oligarchs, and it was a warning to everybody. And this has been going on for some time. As I said, even with what I uncovered as a whistleblower, it's been going on long before that, for probably since social media started. And it is important because I see what they use to weaponize information against politics and stocks. I mean, for the love of God, they're targeting publicly traded companies. They can change the price. We saw it with GameStop. We saw it with AMC. We saw it with Tesla and with Bed Bath and Beyond and so many other different stocks that were targeted and shorted into oblivion. It was happening through social media. And then you see it happening with politicians being attacked, and they can target you any way they want. And dear God, with AI now and voice, they can mimic your own voice. Who knows what's real and what's not?
I was just listening to a thing earlier. The economist Richard Wolff was talking about how there have been a bunch of like deep fakes of him going around, and like, listen, Wolff is a very well-known figure in the circles that I traffic in.
No, I know.
But like, if people are taking time to like make AI deep fakes of like friggin' Richard Wolff, like imagine that what you could do with somebody who's like even more well-known or even more consequential.
It's well, here, let's bring it down to everybody, like you and I's level. Fidelity. right? The investment company, Fidelity.
Yeah.
One of their things is that it has a voice prompt. I can call in to Fidelity.
Oh,
I no longer have an account with Fidelity because of this. You can call in as me, and you can turn this on. It's your choice to turn this on, but it has voice recognition. So then when it recognizes your voice and you say, I think it was your birth date or something, it lets you have access to your account through the phone. So imagine, we're talking right now, and bad actors out there are going to take this recording and then take my voice and go sample it. And now they've got me on a phone call calling Fidelity and getting access to my money.
It's not hard to do. You only need people speaking a certain subset of words, right? Before you can essentially clone their voice. Yeah.
And go back to the social engineering issues with, your porn name, what street did you grow up on? Those types of things. It's so easy to get from people. And where the whole going back to the conspiracy theory too, people's like, oh, that's conspiracy theory. They're not doing it. No, I uncovered it. It's 1,000% happening. Like, there are people who are actually doing this. I can't wait. Honestly, this is one thing that the group that was attacking me with Congress now, with me running for Congress now, I'm waiting to see if they show up and try to use some of the old stuff that they used against me as a whistleblower, because it's only going to further prove my point. Do you know what I mean? Like, to show the interconnectedness of these groups.
Well, I mean, okay. So it's really hard to fight, I imagine, because just the volume, the noise, and the pee under a mattress effect, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're fake peas, but they're lifting up the mattress a whole lot, and they're really like changing the way everybody else perceives things. Upstream, up at the top of the bed there. So how do we fight that? It sounds like, so you've got legislation you're proposing, and I guess let's talk about that first, and then we'll talk about how to get there.
Right. So the legislation that I'm proposing, just to come straight up, because I know the bad actors out there, I've seen it already on Twitter and even on Facebook and some other places. The legislation that I have, that if I'm elected, that I will fight like hell to get passed, is about regulating platforms. It's nothing to do with regulating speech. I want to be very clear so everybody watching knows this has nothing to do with speech, and everything to do with regulating the platforms, regulating Twitter, regulating Facebook, TikTok. I say that too because recently Donald Trump was on the news talking about TikTok, and he made the joke now because of the legislation or whatever, that the rule that they passed on TikTok. He joked around about having the algorithms change to promote MAGA more. Now, he pretended like he was joking, but he's not, and we see it happening already on Twitter and dear God, even Facebook is getting bad.
It's terrible. It is terrible. Can I just interject with how terrible Facebook is? Listen, they know goddamn well who I am. They have all the data they could possibly want about me. I am a 46-year-old white male living in Indiana, right? And they know, based on my likes and my shares and every word I've ever written on their goddamn website, the way I think about politics. They know I'm a leftist, right? And yet, I don't know if it's because they're bad at their job, or they're trying to rage bait me into engaging by sending me things that are the opposite of what I would like. But
it's
like, I am bombarded with right-wing AI slop. I get the Daily Caller. I get friggin' Nick Adams and every other terrible right-wing personality, every website, every Facebook page you can imagine. USA Patriots #1, right? Just constantly, I flip through it. That's it. That's all they give me. That's all they give me. And it's like, okay, this is what you're giving to every 46-year-old white male in Indiana. I understand why we're where we are. Like,
let's put a pin in that because I want to talk about that. The algorithms is definitely a point. But to kind of go back, again, I want to reiterate, these bills do not regulate speech. They regulate the platforms. Net Choice versus Moody, Anderson versus TikTok, they all stated that you can't compel platforms to host or to remove speech, but you can regulate the process and the disclosures tied to the business practices of these platforms. And that's precisely what that does. So, we could talk about I call it DIA and RIA. RIA is the Real Identity Integrity Act, and DIA is the Digital Integrity and Algorithmic Accountability Act. And yes, I know I probably should come up with some better names for these.
I was gonna suggest something different. Yeah, it sounds messy. Yes.
We need to shorten them a little bit. But the integrity part is important because we've got to put integrity back into social media and into politics. So with that, I'll start with with RIA. All right, we're just going to refer to it as short. RIA focuses on the accounts. The biggest problem right now, we're just going to say bots, and bots encompasses sock puppets and bad actors, everything.
Anonymous accounts, right? Or accounts run by somebody who is not the person who they say they are.
Right. Who's your daddy 722 that you think is real and lives in Columbus is really Karen over in Yugoslavia that is running 100 accounts, right? Like we're just going to say fake accounts for the purpose of this. And I'm grabbing my notes here just so I make sure that I
I was gonna make a joke how you said Yugoslavia and you aged yourself. Yeah,
I know, right? Yugoslavia's not around. I was waiting on. I set you up for it. Come on, nail him. You can get it. So RIA separates authenticity from public identity. That's an important part for all viewers to understand. It separates the authenticity from public identity. Its verification happens privately through an independent system, not the platform and not the government. So think of it like, when you go to link your bank account to something through an app, right? It uses Plaid, right? I think most people are familiar with Plaid. Think of it when you go to create an account on social media. Instead of it be created through Twitter, through Facebook, through TikTok, it's created through these third-party services who have to be accredited and are monitored by DISC, the Digital Identity Security Council. They have to go through audits, all of those things. We can talk about that later at the back end. But this independent third parties will then take that information from you, your name, your address. I work with veterans, so I have to use ID.me a lot. That's if you want to access the IRS. So I'm not saying ID me. I have no correlation with them aside that I use their service. I'm just using it as an example. My social, something like that. I'm going to put my social in there. I know it's safe, right? It's an encrypted site. It's a well-known service. Like Semantic is another one that's out there. Great, well-known provider. Maybe that's something that down the road they do this third party verification. They collect the information and you become tokenized. You get a token that's then passed over to the platforms, protecting your identity entirely. It does not require that, Scott Rogers, your name is on the Twitter account. You could be whatever your name wants to be on Twitter, unless you delve into the influencer realm. When you dive into the influencer realm, it does stipulate about if you've got over, and I don't have it I don't have that number readily in front of me, but we're talking a large hundreds of thousands of followers where you've massed influence.
Some standard deviation above what is,
It's not like, I have, I think around 8,000 followers on Twitter. It ain't that, even though I am me on there.
Right.
but it requires public figures. If you want to be verified, back in the day, it used to mean the blue check mark, which doesn't.
I was going to say, it sounds like the blue check, but sort of like a universal blue check, like removed from the platforms themselves. Yeah. Okay.
You're verified through these third parties, and the blue check or the green check or whatever the hell it is, whatever symbol it is that now signifies you are a verified human being, that is controlled by the accepted third party vendors. We'll just call them vendors, right? So that's what the Real Identity Integrity Act does. Now, the Digital Integrity and Algorithmic Accountability Act targets the platforms themselves to make the algorithms public. You can no longer hide behind your algorithms. And if you're pushing shit like what you and I see, like we are 46, both of us are 46-year-old white men that are definitely the left. Why are we seeing right-wing rage bait shit on our platform?
Right. Like why when we keep putting in it, see less of this, see less of this, see less of this, do they keep giving us more of this?
There must be in this legislation, I put it to where there's a one-click option, and you only do it once. And they get fined if they ever go back and undo it. The platform gets fined 5% of their annual revenue for the first offense. It goes up to 10% more if there's a second offense. It goes up 10% more if there's a third offense. We got to quit effing around with these platforms, these petty ass fines that are just it's like the staple cost as just cost of doing business, right? We got to put some fines in there that stops it, that detours this from happening. But it goes to the effect of one-click option, turn off the algorithm, and you just want a chronological feed. Think back to the Facebook days in the early 2000s when Facebook started. The only thing you saw on your damn feed was the posts from the people you followed.
The people you follow in chronological order. Oh my God, please give me that back. Yeah, but you can't do that. And not only can you not do that, like there are third-party apps that people have used to like do that. With Instagram, for example, I know as one. And Meta will come in, they'll have to, they make the Android or the Apple marketplace come in and take that shit down. Because it is in their financial interest to keep you on the website, to keep you engaged, to get you into a heightened state where you're
and that right there is the segue to the rage bait algorithm that we were talking about earlier. That is the entire purpose. And that's the purpose of conspiracy theory. That's the purpose of libs of TikTok, of hell, even Charlie Kirk. And I'm probably going to get hate mail from this. It won't be the first time, and damn sure it won't be the last. But they do a good job of rage baiting people, and people go for the shit. I always said Charlie Kirk was a fantastic speaker. He was. I didn't like, as a gay man and as a Democrat, I didn't like anything he had to say.
It was very effective. You got to recognize the
speaker.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And the same with Chaya Raychuk, who's libs of TikTok. The same thing. I don't agree with a damn thing she has to say. However, she's able to speak, and she's an effective speaker just as much as she is very effective at manipulating people on social media through her posts, right? And whether you agree with it or you don't agree with it, I myself don't agree with it. I think the rage bait has caused, unfortunately, the political violence that we've seen. And I think that is to kind of tie it back to what we were talking about before we started recording. I think finding that level of where is the line with free speech and social media is going to be a difficult line, and it's one I'm not touching. Not yet, anyways. I think there are smarter people out there. I will 1,000% go after platforms to regulate the hell out of them, to ensure people are safe. But when it comes to regulating our speech, that's going to be a conversation, I think, for maybe I'll tackle that down the road, but I need more information. I think a lot more smarter people to be by my side too while I'm doing it. Now people say, well, you're kind of regulating speech by regulating the platforms. Who decides what propaganda is? Who decides what manipulation as a service is? Who decides what rage bait is? And those are fair questions, right? I'm not gonna tap dance around it. Those are difficult questions to answer, but they're not. We know what it is. We absolutely know what propaganda is. I used an example today on Facebook that I talked about. It was a meme where it was four myths about the United States Constitution. Three of them were factual, but one of them, it said, I think it's something about the nowhere in the Constitution does it state that the president can only serve 2 terms. That was actually false. All the
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure it says that in the 22nd Amendment.
It's the 22nd Amendment, exactly. But it's part of the psychology of those memes to lump it in. Yeah. You're more apt to believe it because there are so many other truths with it, right? And then I think the eye-opening part for most people is, okay, well, 2 people shared the same meme, right? But they didn't. They also have the same language and the same, they said the exact same thing with the meme on 2 different Facebook. Well, they might have copy pasted. Stop making excuses and start seeing the things that are in front of your eyes. Like, these are exactly what's happening. That is how they manipulate you psychologically. It's seeing those things, and the platforms know how to track it, because not only is there seeing those posts, you can going back to the sock puppets, the operators, just like we have thumbprints, right? We have fingerprints that we leave. You have a style to writing. You can try to mask your writing all you want. Mm-hmm. There is a unique style, Scott. We can tell how many accounts you're operating just based on your style of writing, with a few other pinpoints. Your interactions, your talking points, those types of things all fall into it. There are LLMs that are out there that can track those things. That's I think is a whole nother conversation. It was actually, I was on Hal Sparks' podcast recently, and he was talking with somebody that actually does that for a living. They live up in Chicago, and I'm hoping that I get to have a conversation. I would love to go spend like half a day with them, seeing how they write the code to find these types of things.
Yeah, it's been fascinating.
So that's my nerdy side coming out. But all of those things play into effect. That is how you can actually define those, plus IP addresses and just a plethora of other things. So the technical side of preventing propaganda and manipulation as a service, it's there. It's never going to be perfect because it's always going to be changing. One thing that scam artists and grifters and people that do this type of stuff, the sooner you change a rule, whether it's a law or it's something about the platform, how it works, they're already 10 steps ahead trying to figure out a workaround around it. Right? It is an ever-changing market. So I think that having people, again, way smarter than me, that will work on DISC, work in the Digital Integrity Security Council, which is part of what this legislation also moves to help create that department within the government. Social media is no longer just something fun. It's become a utility, like power, like water, like electric, and it's a means for people to make a living. It's a means for people to connect. It's also a means for crime, and we have to treat it that way. And we have to be the adults in the room. And as much as I don't like saying this as a Democrat, Democrats have used it for the same reasons in the same ways that Republicans have. And it's why nothing has been done.
Just badly. Just badly. We've not done as...
Democrats have not done... if I was to... and I hate saying... This part I hate saying. The Republicans have grifted the algorithms and the fake accounts at a mastery level. I mean, an absolute mastery level. The Democrats have fumbled along like a kid in kindergarten trying to learn how to use MySpace. Like, Democrats have got to get better on their social media.
Well, listen, a whole lot of that is the billionaires, the oligarchs, they have their thumbs on the scale. They are the people who can control the algorithm. They can turn up the volume on such and such viewpoint and turn it down on another viewpoint. We mentioned Musk. His platform is a cesspool of various kinds of extremism.
That's a nice way to put it, Scott.
We've talked about, they're serving up slop. And now TikTok, with their sale, this is not official yet, going to Larry Ellison, that is just another oligarch with their thumb on the algorithm. So, I mean, here's the thing about free speech. And I guess this sort of brings us full circle, and it's kind of a nice way to put a bow around this. The First Amendment's the First Amendment for a reason. But there's always been a line. Like, free speech has never been fully free, right? You can't say anything.
Technically, it's free from government interference, right?
Exactly, and that's what I wanted to grab up. So you can't, you can't incite violence. You can't scream fire in a crowded theater, right? Like, we've determined there's a line.
You can't say that I'm going to kill you to congressional candidates. Let me just put it out there.
It turns out that's illegal. Yeah. So the government cannot, whatever we democratically as a society decide is the line, the government cannot punish you for your speech. But that never meant that you are entitled to a platform. That never meant you are entitled to an amplifier. It used to be a soapbox, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then it's like you got your soapbox and you could plug into an amp. Well, and now you got a soapbox and you can plug into the internet, and then the scale of these things are beyond what our founders could have ever imagined.
Oh yeah, and here's the one thing that I think this might sum it up. You and I, we as citizens, we are afforded the luxury of having free speech. Bots aren't. Point blank. Bots are not provided. They're not covered by free speech. Humans are.
What if they're owned by a corporation? Are they then people?
So then, no. Actually, that's in the Real Identity Act. Because I had, thanks to somebody else, they were like, Kory, what about businesses who use good bots, right? Like, there are good bots out there. Like the weather, there's on Twitter, there's a weather bot.
There's
Twitter page.
There customer service bots, there's help bots. These things serve a purpose. They're good.
Businesses
can engage in political speech online.
Right. And that's the thing. If you're going to be an influencer, and that would include, at this point, it would include you and I, because I'm running for office and you do a lot of podcasts with this. I think we could be held to those same standards, that we do have to verify our identities and make them public to people, unless we are a whistleblower. If there is a purpose to hide your identity from that, then it's understandable, right? But if there are accounts out there that are bought by Target to promote their business, to promote Target, those accounts must be labeled as a bot, must be labeled that they are owned by Target and that they are being used for advertising purposes. And it's registered through those third parties that they get tokens for those, so they are all monitored. And the same with children. Children, I mentioned I work in financial aid, and anybody who's filled out the FAFSA knows that when you're under the age of 24, you got to include your parents. So now you send your parents a contributor invite. It will do the same thing for kids 13 to 17 that want to get on social media. They'll go to the same third-party services, but it will then send an invite to their parents or to social services. which is if for students or for kids that may not, they may
Yeah,
have
foster kids or
whatever.
whatever.
Goes to their foster parents.
Your legal guardian.
Yeah, legal guardian. So there are those things, those measures that we thought about when we were drafting this and put into place. Is there something I forgot? I'm sure there probably is. Which is why it's not permanent. I encourage people, go onto my website, go under the legislations, read it, send me messages that are honest with your ideas. Or if you're like, Kory, maybe that's a little too far. What about this idea? I don't want hate mail. It's always going to have. If you want to complain or bitch about something that I've drafted in legislation, please do. I welcome it. Come with a solution for it, right? Be professional about it. Don't just be like, you suck. And I see that enough on Twitter, and it's going to be out there, right? But I think that the best way for us to come together as people, whether you're right or left, or in the middle, or just don't want a damn thing to do with politics, if you've got ideas, I want to hear them. And I think that's the biggest takeaway for everybody. That's whether it's about social media, whether it's about healthcare legislation that I've drafted, whether it's about the FERA, the Freedom of Speech Act that I want to put through that protects people so they aren't getting shit canned like they are right now. That's a big one that I think we could probably talk about on a whole different podcast, or even my Unity Pathway Act, which is about immigration and smart immigration. Give me your ideas. Give me your thoughts. I want to hear those, but I also want to hear what your solution would be. What do you think?
I think that's a perfect place to leave this. Landed the plane very nicely, Kory. You pulled the thing into the driveway, led me right to the place where I can say to folks, well, hey, if you've got ideas, if you want to reach Kory, where can the people find you?
So you can find me on Facebook. It's just William Kory Amyx for Congress. I've had people trying to send me friend requests for my personal account. I don't accept friend requests from the public for my personal account. That's my personal life, and that's kept separate from Congress. But you can add me or follow me on Facebook at William Kory Amyx for Congress. You can find me on Bullsh and Twitter. I have TikTok also. I don't have a YouTube channel, so I'm on most of the social. Yeah, I know that's it's on the to-do list. But you can also go to amyxforcongress.com, and right on my homepage, you can send me a message. And then my campaign phone number is out there. Hold on, I can tell you what it is here in just a second. My campaign phone number is 765-577-8165. You can also call me. Please don't call after 9. I'm usually in bed.
That right there is kind of accessibility and transparency that we can use a whole hell of a lot more of. So, fantastic. Kory, I look forward to having many more conversations with you.
Absolutely.
As the months go forward, as we go on toward the primary and beyond. But for now, thank you so much for joining me here tonight on the Who's Left podcast.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.
Once again, that was Kory Amyx, Democratic candidate for the U.S. House of Representatives in Indiana's 6th Congressional District. Hoosiers, we are not as divided as it seems. Nefarious actors, both foreign and domestic, use the formidable tool of automation, artificial intelligence, and a largely unregulated social media space to keep us divided, anxious, and angry. I greatly appreciate that we've got experts and whistleblowers like Kory thinking about how to solve this messy, squishy problem. Legislation like the Digital Algorithmic Accountability Act that require transparency from big tech, and the Real Identity Integrity Act that end the weaponization of fake accounts represent a solid, well-formed foundation for rebuilding a more honest, useful internet. In 2016, the RAND Corporation described the contemporary Russian propaganda playbook as a, quote, Firehose. In 2016, the RAND Corporation described the contemporary Russian propaganda playbook as a, quote, firehose of falsehood. Stateside, top Trump advisor Steve Bannon described the MAGA strategy of flood the zone with shit in a 2018 interview with writer Michael Lewis. Today, entering into online spaces is like stepping into the repugnant stream produced by combining these two techniques. Let's call it a fire hose of bullshit. And while I highly doubt it was intentional, it's perfectly apt that the regulations designed to shut off this stream of doo-doo are abbreviated DIA and RIA.
I just got that. A poop joke? It's real creative, Lois.
Thanks for listening. I'll be live at 10:30 a.m. Sunday on Project Next Media Network's YouTube, Facebook Live, and Twitch streams where I host Who's Left This Week, Indiana's most thorough weekend morning news and politics talk show. Check it out live if you get a chance. It's a lot of fun, if you can call following the news in this timeline fun. I bring together a diverse group of panelists from the Democratic Socialist left to Never Trump conservatives, and we look at the week's headlines from around Indiana and beyond. We also take time to examine one big thing, a different deep dive every week. I hope to see you there in the comments, but if you can't make it live, the program will be available as a podcast later Sunday afternoon. Thanks again to Kory for taking the time to dive deep into these topics with me, and thank you for listening. If you can, help him out with a contribution. A link to his Act Blue page is in the show notes. And if you're feeling extra generous, also consider sharing some funds with me via a paid subscription at whosleft.us, where you'll find my entire archive. I rely solely on the generosity of kind patrons like you to make this information available for free to everybody. In addition to the website, find me on Blue Sky, Instagram, and Threads at whosleft.us, and on Facebook, X, TikTok, Mastodon, and YouTube at Who's Left. Direct message me at any of those sites with feedback, tips, ideas, and concerns, or email me at scott@whosleft.us. While you've got the old email machine out, please forward the show to a friend and have them pass it on too. Let's keep building this project in a truly democratic state, one conversation at a time. Till the next one, this has been the Who's Left podcast. I'm Scott Aaron Rogers. Love each other, Indiana.